This is some interesting news, but something that we did also expect after Khamzat missed weight at UFC 279, and it looks like he's teasing a move to 185. He actually wants to go up there. I know he's always been saying it for a long time that he wants to fight in both weight classes, so this may not be only a way for him to fight at middleweight, but also get the respect back for him to fight at 170 if he does well at 185. Let's say he goes up there and beats, I don't know who it is. I mean, it's really between two opponents that he can fight. Either Robert Whittaker or Paulo Costa. Those are the only two guys that make any sense for Khamzat at the moment at 185. Considering that he is one of the top contenders at 170, he is a big draw, and he is potentially one fight away from fighting a champion in either weight classes. In one way, it is a perfect time for Khamzat to go 185 because there isn't too much going on in that division right now, so it's a clear path to the title. Just one win and that's it. But at the same time, the two opponents, Whittaker and Costa, are not easy fights for him at all, especially Whittaker. I would actually have to say that Whittaker is the toughest fight for Khamzat at 170 or 185. He's literally the nightmare matchup. There's no one else that counters him like that. And let's talk about his chances against Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker. But first, we gotta talk about Raid Shadow Legends, which is giving you the true experience of a console level game straight on your phone. With over 600 champions with unique skills, you can build your own unique team, develop your champions, and raid your way. The gameplay is amazing, with many different modes that you can play through, such as a Doom Tower, which I do put a lot of time in, which gives you new and terrifying bosses to play against. It's extremely challenging with over 120 levels, and I really like to use the new Shadowkin faction, new characters added to raid who are part of a tribe of warriors liberated from an evil reign, but they are a bit of a complicated set of characters, which for me makes them really cool, man. And there's so many different kind of modes and characters, it's perfect for all different kind of player types. You could play casually, hardcore, there's more than enough content. But the big news is the new superpower legendary version of everybody's favorite champion, the Ultimate Death Knight. Makes life so much easier, man. He's perfect in every which way, very powerful to use, and everybody can get him for free just by logging in. All you have to do is log in and play raid for 7 days between now and October 27. That's plenty of time, and you'll get Ultimate Death Knight. And with that, also use the promo code DKRISES for a bunch of free items to level up your strongest champion to level 50, 5-star Ascension, and this promo code could be used for both new and existing players. But if you haven't played Raid yet, click the link in the description below or scan my QR code here on screen. You'll get unique bonuses worth $30. That's one free epic champion, Terrell, who's really strong, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in the game. All of this is waiting for you in your inbox. Just make sure to hit the link in the description below. But Paulo Costa, on the other hand, I could definitely see Khamzat winning that through his wrestling and stuff, but Costa's a big guy. He can scramble. He's not a bad wrestler or grappler at all, and he should have somewhat of an advantage when it comes to the striking, but Khamzat, I believe, might have more power punch for punch. He seems to be faster, and Costa can get hit inside exchanges, especially from jabs and right straights, and we know that Khamzat has a very good jab from southpaw or orthodox, which could potentially be a huge problem for Paulo Costa as we stem it back to Costa's performance against Uriah Hall. In either stance, Hall was just peppering him in the face with straight punches, and Costa could not get away from them. That was always a consistent thing with Paulo Costa's entire career. Straight punches just get to him, and he can't really do much about it. So as long as Khamzat doesn't brawl it out with Paulo Costa, he should be alright. As soon as it gets too chaotic, that's when Paulo Costa is going to start to take over, because he is more experienced in that kind of fight. That's generally how his style thrives. Even shown in his Yoel Romero fight. Where I think Costa can probably have a pretty hard time with Khamzat's wrestling is pretty much just the chain wrestling. The initial shot might be defended, but I ultimately don't see Costa keeping up with Khamzat, especially with how strong Khamzat really is. I mean, he is taller than Costa, he does have a longer reach, he does have some attributes on top of him, even though he is a bit lighter. But Khamzat, as we know already, is very strong at 185. Look what he did to John Phillips. John Phillips is a big guy, big stocky guy that even fought at catch weights multiple times in his career above 185, and he could not do anything to Khamzat when he got a hold of him. Of course, though, John Phillips is not as good of a wrestler or anywhere as good as Paulo Costa, but strength for strength, it really shows Khamzat's capabilities at 185. So that is actually an interesting fight to go back and look at just to see the sheer strength of Khamzat. But I ultimately do believe that Khamzat beats Paulo Costa. It would be a pretty difficult fight for him. If it's 3 rounds, I like his chances even more. If it's 5 rounds, I start to lean towards Paulo Costa. Then we talk about Robert Whittaker. This is actually another fight that is very likely to happen for the fact that Whittaker is the number one contender. He's the guy that's beating everybody else that isn't the champion. He's the underboss. He's like the under champion. He's the guy that's taking out everybody before they get to the crown. A gatekeeper to the title, if you will. And beating Whittaker is a clear shot to the title shot for Khamzat, but there is one issue. Whittaker's injured. He just came out and said today, actually like an hour ago, that he suffered 2 broken toes in the Vettori fight. And I don't know how long that's going to take him to recover. It usually takes 4 to 6 weeks to recover from that, but I don't know how bad the breaks were. So just to be generous, we'll say 2 months. And Whittaker should be able to fight again, right? That is enough time for Khamzat to come back and target that fight, but Paulo Costa seems to be more on sight for Khamzat's future, given the fact that, they both have beef with each other, they both don't like each other, and I like the Paulo Costa fight for Khamzat even better than Whittaker for his sake, because I don't see how he beats Whittaker. I really don't. When you look at the striking, just generally speaking, unless Khamzat catches him with something big and crazy, wings some punch out there and just happens to connect, that's really like the only way you could really see Khamzat even winning on the feet at all. He's outsped. Power for power, it is pretty close. The skill in general, pick any specific detail, and Whittaker's better than Khamzat. There's nothing that Khamzat does on the feet better than Whittaker. Especially with the fact that Khamzat doesn't move his head, he's easily hit on the center line. Those are some 1-2 combos coming his way, and potentially a high kick to go behind that. But what about the wrestling? Well, we already know that Whittaker is one of the best anti-wrestlers the sport has ever seen. Defending takedowns against Yoel Romero, Derek Brunson, scrambling with Jacare Souza and getting the better of him. Khamzat is a more heavy wrestler than any of those guys. He puts more emphasis on his wrestling more than those guys do. And he does chain wrestle, which is a little bit different than the other wrestlers that he has fought previously. So it is a bit of a different kind of hurdle for Whittaker to jump over. But the fact that we know he scrambled and rolled around with Jacare and was successful, that doesn't give me any confidence in Khamzat's ability, to be honest here. Also with the fact that Whittaker is bigger than him and seems to be more explosive, the more Khamzat shoots takedowns and the more they get defended, the greater his exhaustion is going to be. In a potential 4th or 5th round, if this is a 5-round fight, Khamzat is done by that time. He's going to be way too sporadic in those first 2 rounds to take Whittaker to the ground, and I think it's going to haunt him later in those 4th and 5th rounds. If he doesn't do that, he's giving the control of the fight to Whittaker. So you could definitely see how this is a complete nightmare of a matchup for Khamzat Chimaev, and a guy that he should be avoiding, or at least his manager, whoever is taking negotiations for him, definitely should be beneficial to Khamzat's career and keep him away from Whittaker. Get the title shot by trying to get around that guy. So yes, my prediction for that fight, whether it be 3 or 5 rounds, I got Whittaker winning it. The rest of the fighters like Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, I don't see them dealing with Khamzat that well. Styles make fights. They have some of the weaker wrestling in the whole division. And yes, they are the best strikers in the division. How much is it really going to matter if they can't catch him with a knee, if they can't intercept his takedown? I mean, we got better grapplers and wrestlers than Adesanya and Pereira trying to roll with Khamzat, and it always fails for them. Pereira has a size to him, so there is something going there. But Israel is like the same size as Khamzat. And I believe Khamzat is physically stronger than Adesanya. And what's the best way Adesanya defends takedowns? Against the fence. His back is to the fence. He uses it against them with his length. That's exactly where Khamzat wants you. He's playing exactly to Khamzat's strengths, where he should be trying to keep it in the center of the octagon if he had that kind of takedown defense. But we know that Adesanya's takedown defense in the center of the octagon isn't as good as it is against the fence, shown in his Vettori fights as well as his last Whittaker fight. So in the Pereira and Adesanya fight, I do favor Khamzat to beat both of those guys. The only one that really beats him in that weight class, in my opinion, is Robert Whittaker. Everybody else, I believe, might lose. We still got to see where Andre Muniz fits into all of this. Interesting stuff, man. It'd be really fun to watch him at 185 again and not fight guys who are non-ranked, but actually fight the contenders, which is what he's going to be forced to do. And leave the comments below, what do you guys think? What do you think his chances are at 185, specifically against Costa, Whittaker, Adesanya, and Pereira?